The Mediterranean sun bathed the island of Capri in gold. White lilies lined the pathways leading up to the cliffside villa where Dakota Johnson and Sam Heughan were planning the wedding of their dreams. The invitations had gone out, the paparazzi had been warned off, and the guest list read like a who's who of Hollywood and European royalty. Dakota stood on the balcony of her suite, a silk robe wrapped around her slender frame, staring out at the glittering sea. This was supposed to be the happiest week of her life, the week she married the man who had turned late-night phone calls and stolen weekends into a promise of forever. Inside the villa, Sam was pacing the marble hallway, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, urgent. He'd been getting calls for days now, strange, anonymous warnings, veiled threats. At first he'd thought it was just another tabloid prank. But yesterday, a message had arrived at the villa's private mailbox. Call it off, or pay the price. No signature, just those words and a black feather. He didn't want Dakota to know. Not yet, not until he understood what was happening. When he returned to the suite, she turned and smiled, though her eyes were full of questions. Who was that? She asked. Just the wedding planner, he lied smoothly. Dakota tilted her head, sensing the tension in his shoulders. Sam, is something wrong? He crossed the room and kissed her forehead. Nothing that's going to ruin our wedding. I promise. But even as he said it, a shadow crossed his mind, a memory of a past project, a dangerous benefactor, a powerful figure he'd once crossed. He had thought all that was behind him. Now he wasn't so sure. Down in the harbor, a sleek black yacht sat at anchor. On its deck stood a figure in a linen suit and dark sunglasses, watching the villa through binoculars. In his pocket was a list of demands, a grudge years in the making, and a plan to bring Sam Heughan to his knees, even if it meant destroying his wedding to Dakota Johnson. The next morning, the island looked like a postcard, cobalt water, pastel houses clinging to the cliffs, and gulls wheeling lazily over the harbor. But inside the villa, tension hung like invisible smoke. Sam woke early, long before the sun cleared the horizon. He slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Dakota, and padded down to the kitchen. The staff had left a pot of coffee and a basket of fresh pastries, but he barely touched them. Instead, he pulled out his phone and scrolled again to the anonymous message. Call it off, or pay the price. He'd seen enough threats in his life to know this wasn't just a prank. There was an old business deal he'd walked away from, a film fund run by a powerful, unpredictable investor. Sam had refused a shady endorsement contract, and the investor had taken it personally. That was over 2 years ago. But people like that didn't forget. Footsteps behind him. Couldn't sleep either. Dakota's voice was soft but edged with curiosity. She was wearing one of his shirts, hair still tousled from sleep. He forced a smile. Just thinking about the vows, he said. Big day coming. She stepped closer, slipping her arms around his waist. Sam, I know you're hiding something. He exhaled, leaning his forehead against hers. I don't want to ruin this for you. Then don't, she said simply. But at least tell me the truth. Before he could answer, his phone buzzed again. Another message. This one had an attachment, a blurry photo of the villa's garden at night, taken from the trees. We're closer than you think. Dakota saw the look on his face and snatched the phone. Her eyes widened. Sam, what is this? He hesitated. Then he told her everything. The investor, the threats, the black feather. As he spoke, her expression shifted from shock to steely resolve. You should have told me sooner, she said. I didn't want to scare you. I'm not scared. She handed him back the phone. I'm angry, and whoever this is, they're not going to ruin our wedding. Sam felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Dakota wasn't the type to back down, but he also knew how dangerous this could get. Down in the harbor, the black yacht was still anchored. The man in the linen suit, known only in certain circles as Marconi, was on the phone with his lieutenant. They're nervous, he said in Italian. Good. Keep the pressure. We don't move until I say. What about the girl? The lieutenant asked. Marconi's eyes narrowed. The girl is the key. Hurt her, and he'll fold. He ended the call and slipped the black feather back into a silver case. Years of humiliation, of deals gone sour, all because Sam Heughan had walked away from him. Now it was time to collect. That afternoon, Sam and Dakota met with the wedding planner in the villa's sunlit atrium, trying to keep up appearances. The planner, an excitable Italian named Sofia, was showing him the final seating chart when a staff member rushed in, pale and trembling. Signor Heughan, the man whispered. There's a delivery. What kind of delivery? Sam asked. The staffer held out a small white box tied with black ribbon. Sam took it, his hands steady despite the cold knot in his stomach. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single black feather, and a note. Tonight at midnight, the cliffs, alone. Dakota's eyes met his. You're not going, she said immediately. I have to. No, she snapped. They're luring you out. It's a trap. He closed the box. If I don't go, they'll come here. They could hurt you, hurt everyone. Dakota grabbed his hand. Then we go together. Sam shook his head. It's me they want. But as he looked at her, at the defiance in her eyes, the way she stood beside him even now, he realized he might not have a choice. This wasn't just his fight anymore. That night, long after the last staffer had gone to bed and the villa lay silent, Sam slipped out of his room and headed for the cliffs. The moon hung low over the sea, casting a silver path across the waves. He could hear his own heartbeat as he walked. But when he reached the meeting point, someone was already there. Hello, Sam, a voice said smoothly. Marconi stepped out of the shadows, linen suit glowing pale in the moonlight. Behind him, two men in black waited, silent and watchful. I told you this was finished, Sam said. Marconi smiled. You don't get to decide when it's finished. I'm not paying you a cent. Ideographic period. Oh, I don't want your money, Marconi said softly. I want your happiness. And right now, it's wearing a wedding dress on this island. Sam's hands clenched into fists. If you touch her, Marconi raised a hand. No need for threats. You'll call off the wedding yourself. Or we'll make sure she walks down a very different aisle. One lined with coffins. Back at the villa, Dakota stood at the window, heart pounding. She had followed him at a distance, slipping through the olive groves like a shadow. Now she could see the confrontation on the cliffs, the men in black, the glint of something metallic under the moon. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. 911, she whispered. But then she hesitated. This was Italy. The police here worked differently. Would they even get here in time? She tightened her grip on the phone. I won't let them take him, she murmured. And then she stepped out into the night.